Hi, I'm Joe Polizzi, and this is the Content Inc. podcast. 5 minutes every Monday for content creators who desire to be content entrepreneurs. Happy Thursday, everyone, and continuing our Content Inc. book interviews. This week, I'm delighted to share with you my interview with Trish Witkowski of Fold Factory. If you want to learn from someone that has consistently delivered amazing information over a long period of time in one channel and then built a business around it, Trish is an amazing example. You'll love this one. Enjoy. Okay, let's get started. So Trish, Fold Factory has really become an incredible success. I talked about it quite a bit in the Content Inc. book. Your YouTube channel is unbelievable. It's really been an important part of your business. What I'd love just to set us off before I get into the audience building and revenue questions, can you just tell everyone what Fold Factory is and how it even happened, how you made the decision to go with Fold Factory as a series, and then what it's done for your business?
Sure. This is fun. So as Joe said, my company's called Fold Factory, and I specialize in creative folded solutions for direct mail, marketing, special events. And everyone asks me, why folding? And my why is because I know more about brochure folding than anyone else in the world. And strangely, I made a fateful decision over 20 years ago when I decided to research and document brochure folding as a thesis topic for my master's degree. And there just was nothing available on the topic. I was working as a designer. I didn't know what my options were. So it really was my own curiosity as well. I wanted to know how many folding styles are there for brochures, and the field was just wide open. So I saw an opportunity and ran with it. And it went from thesis project to passion project to side hustle to full-time job in about a 10-year period of time. And I've been at it full-time for another 12 years now. And, it's funny. I thought I'd be a huge success early on. I started actually as a software company, and I had a book, and we had software that built templates for folded materials. It did all the math, and we won print industry awards and everything. And I was like, wow, nobody else has ever documented this. I'm going to be a big hit. But the challenge ahead of me was that when nobody knows something exists, they have to discover it. And then you have to prove its value. And then you have to teach them how to use it. There's a learning curve there that I didn't see at the time. And back in the day, I would, excitedly tell somebody I was researching folding, and they were like, oh, that's nice. Good for you. And nobody was excited about it because everyone's perception of folding was basic little trifold brochures like we see every day. So my mission was to change the conversation, to prove the value of doing something different, and then to bring different to the mainstream. And that's where video came in. So I had to show proof of what could be done. And these days, I'm what you'd probably call a long haul content creator. I've had a show going for almost 12 years now, a weekly video series. Episode 555 went out today. And I produce other videos to support content as well. I have sponsors. I've sold physical and digital products. I have a designer line of marketing products at an online print store. I sell consulting hours, do live and virtual events, license content, write books, create courses. It's a totally diversified revenue stream. So that's really how it all, I don't know, I guess that's the story of where it is today and how it all began, but it's been kind of a long journey.
You might be one of the longest running YouTube series, correct? I mean, you've got to be up there.
I must be. I just must be. I know that I feel like I was on that early end of using video for B2B. I mean, I really do feel like it was kind of this interesting little decision I made. I just felt like I wasn't getting out to enough people, and video was, YouTube was this thing, and, people were using it for fun, but I kind of went, well, what if I did this little video show? I mean, probably nobody will watch it, but what the heck, and that's really how it started. And I had this funny idea I'm actually well known for my shirts for the show. And and I have every shirt or every show, I have a different fun folding related t-shirt slogan on every episode. So for example, fold your horses, this too shall fold, this is my resting fold face. I hate to fold and run. Yeah. So people watch, it became kind of my hook. And people watch just as much to see what I'm showing, but also to get a kick out of the shirts. And so
Why I love your example is because, I mean, we were talking about Wally Koval before. He's got over 1 million followers on Instagram, big numbers, focusing mostly on consumers. I think of Kevin Kelly's A Thousand True Fans when I think of your show because, I mean, you're not getting, I mean, you've gotten thousands and thousands on some of your shows, but generally you'll get, a couple hundred, sometimes 1,000 views of your videos. But these are like core customers. These are ones that, I mean, what has that done for the business? How much do you think that you'd be in the place you are right now with your business and the success if you didn't have that show?
I have to say no. I mean, I think what the video work has done for me is just established credibility. It's established ownership and authority in the space. And it's given me opportunities to, get out there and get in front of people in lots of different ways. And so I really believe that the video work has also just given me ability to also have things that are out there to share. I don't know. It becomes shareable. It's proof of the value of what's out there. I also believe that there's a powerful kind of audience participation element in this type of content and its success. I think if I was designing and sharing a bunch of things that I was doing, I don't think it's as interesting as people wondering, well, oh my gosh, this one's from Australia. Oh my gosh, who's on the show this week? Who got it's always a surprise. And it's, I curate it, I make the decisions. And I think there's an element there of fun and surprise and of audience interaction. And there's something that I like to call the fold of the week effect. And I can show something on the fold of the week, and months later, I will get a sample that someone in the audience was, they were inspired by the episode they saw weeks before or months before. They modified it. They did something interesting with it, but it inspired them. It became a kind of a springboard for their idea, and they've now done a modification of it. And then it's something I can share, like, okay, remember this from episode, 352. Well, now, this came, and here's a way to shorten this and do that, and now it's more male friendly. Like it's this, everyone's kind of building on everyone else's creativity, and I think there's a real power in that. And I think that's led to some of the momentum as well.
Just for people listening right now, I mean, there's a lot that goes into your shows. Take us through a week. What does it take to put on one of these shows? How long does it take you in prep time and editing and everything you do?
So yeah, that's a great question. It's funny. I think I'm like a total bootstrapper. I know you've had some really awesome interviews throughout this tour, people with teams. I'm kind of a one-woman show. My husband helps me with the site and kind of the business back end, but I write, shoot photos and video. I produce my own videos. I do my own video work. I have a pretty sophisticated photo and video studio in my house. I even make my own shirts for the show. I used to order those online, and they were like $22 a piece. And now I figured out how to make them for like $2 a piece. I buy a shirt at Michael's. I have a cutter, like a Cricut cutter, and I use a heat transfer vinyl. So, you can totally bootstrap, which is kind of funny, and do a lot of things yourself. But to do the show, I have to determine what the sample is. I usually then reach out to whoever it was that submitted. I get some additional specs. I don't script, so I just know my content. I just memorize the specs and I think about what I want to say. I have to set up my cameras. Then I shoot. I do a couple of different camera angles now. I used to just do a single shot. But now I do a couple different camera angles. I have to shoot the image itself as well, and that becomes an asset that I use in a couple of areas. So I have to light that and shoot that. Then I shoot my videos, and then I have to go, back to my desk. I cut those in, edit, adjust, whatever, trim, export. And then I go into MailChimp and I do, I write the story, I do the specs, I do, all the parts and pieces. It's funny, I've gotten it down to a science now. And Joe, I mean, there are literally, it's funny. you're when you get into content like this, when you have a show that you have committed to and that people rely on, it's like you have to show up. Like you don't get to skip a week when you don't feel like doing it, when you're tired, when I have shot at 3 a.m. before a flight. I've done all sorts of things. I've shot a couple of weeks ahead of time to make up for being away on vacation, things like that. So you kind of can't cut corners, and you have to be good every time, and consistently good, and have good energy every time.
Have you missed a week, Trish?
I've missed. I will say that, like, I skip major holidays, and I've missed a couple here and there, I will admit, but it's pretty rare, pretty rare. So yeah, it's a commitment, and it's funny to think about having a video of yourself every week for 12 years. I mean, just think about that. And there are times when, you gain and lose weight, you get a bad haircut, whatever, and you watch it like camera goes on, showtime. But I think part of that is what people like. There's an authenticity there. They kind of get to know me, and yeah, I have bad hair days like everybody else. I mean, what are you going to do? The show must go on. So
there's some videos of me from 15 years ago where I actually had hair. So that's, you can see my receding hairline throughout the years. It's fantastic. I know what you mean. Let's talk about what I love is your focus on a specific audience. Did you make a decision and say, this is who I'm targeting when you started the show, or did it evolve and you learned who was engaging in your videos?
So I definitely had an audience in mind. And it's really, people who create, design, and produce printed marketing media. So that's designers, marketers, print and paper industry people, also educators and their students. I felt like, in my early days of my research, I had just come out of school, and I felt like my college hadn't really prepared me for the more technical production end of things. And that's why I share a lot of that in the show. I have a formula with my show. It's an inspiration plus education model. And, I'm always sharing the creative side plus the under the hood production to try to help people learn. And so these days that is my audience, but I also have hobbyists and paper crafters and just people who like the show. I have people that reach out and they're like, my wife doesn't even know like anything about what you're talking about, but she loves the show. Like I'll just get people, also who just really like the show, that watch too. But my general audience is in the designers, marketers, print and paper people. So who produce direct marketing and other forms of print materials. So.
Okay, I want to break down a little bit on YouTube because that seems to be your core platform. But what's your toolkit as it comes to other platforms? I heard you're using MailChimp, so you obviously create the video. Then you send a video out, or they send something out to your subscribers. Other social media. Can you talk about how you're growing audience right now?
Sure. So I tend to focus on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Pinterest. Those are kind of my areas. YouTube's definitely my strongest platform. I also, I really do believe as well in leveraging other kind of learning platforms. So like I have a couple of courses on LinkedIn Learning, and those have helped grow my audience. And it's funny, if I think that if I had put a course or something, made my own course on my own platform, I don't think I would have gotten the same viewing that I've gotten, or visibility that I've gotten over on LinkedIn Learning. So although it was a lot of work, it's helped the platform, and I think 65,000 people have taken my folding course over on LinkedIn. So it's kind of like, I don't think I could have done that on my own. And so, it's that cross platform thing, but I have learned that I can't be everywhere. And so I've tried to really be as good as I can be in a few places. I'd love to get, stronger in a few other areas, probably Instagram and, but I just, I've found that I'm really focused now on blogging, because blogging, I can embed my videos in there as well and have them more searchable. I'm just, trying to decide where my time's best spent, because I have a tremendous amount, body of content to share. And so I need kind of a longer form scenario. And so I'm more focused on blogging right now and video work, and then merging video with blog posts.
Well, you're not alone, because in our other interviews, and you heard some of them, they made specific decisions not to be on certain platforms because they said, oh, we only have so much time to be great in these certain platforms. So we're going to say no to Instagram or say no to Facebook or whatever the case is. So I think you're probably making the right decisions. If somebody was starting up a YouTube channel today, somebody listening to this, what would you tell them? What are some of the hints that a lot of regular people don't know about how you get found in YouTube?
Okay, so I do have a couple of general tips. Let's see. One that I don't know if this is really related to growing the YouTube thing, but I just have to share this. I really wish I had been more organized from the start. If you're going to start, I don't care what platform you're on, think about how you might use your content in the future and put in the time to be organized as you go along, because it's really, really hard to go back and do it later. You think you will have time, you will not have time. And now I'm trying to go backwards and categorize all my videos and make them searchable. And I'm trying to put them into a database, and each video has 40 points of data. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, I'm hating myself for not doing this as I went along. So that's just kind of a big tip as far as that goes. As far as growing, the channel on YouTube, I'm definitely finding that having a purpose. I mean, one of the things is, the show isn't the only thing. If you go to the Fold Factory channel at YouTube, you have to just try some stuff and see what takes off. And some of my, videos with the highest views have been my how-to videos. I have these, I call them magic hands, but it's just my hands folding and unfolding things. And my how-to videos started to get some traction. And so I made more how-to videos. You have to kind of try some things. But the other thing, here's what I'll say about that, though, and that I want people to understand too, everybody listening, is one of the things that when I started with YouTube is I thought, okay, I did my video, I posted it. It might have done well, it might not have. Oh, well, I'd move on to the next thing. One of the things that I'm learning, I've been working with a YouTube consulting firm that helps companies like me, who have an audience, who are looking to grow it. And one of the things that they talk about is, okay, so your video didn't do well. It's good content. If you know it's good content, okay, change the thumbnail and try again. Change the video description and put it back out there. Like, rework it a little, try it again. Instead of saying, well, did that, it failed, try again, like do something else. It's like, if you have good content, there are things you can do to rework it, reposition it, put a new title in it, that's more engaging. A lot of these companies, they do 10, 15, 20 sample titles before they land on one. It's kind of, there's a bit more of a science to it than I ever realized. I was very kind of, grassroots with my whole process and grew organically. So now I'm getting a little deeper into the analytics side of it. But I really, to be completely honest, have needed some help in it, because it's just kind of a new world for me, looking at things in a different way. But there is a lot you can do there.
I was the same with SEO. I mean, I thought I knew SEO, but I really didn't. So I was like, okay, well, I know the writing side of it. So let's get some expertise in here to show me how to do this so we get found. So Trish, we've, by the way, just a real quick room reset. We're talking with Trish Witkowski, owner of Fold Factory, the great Fold Factory show on YouTube. We're going to get to Q&A in about 10 minutes. So if you have any questions, Ann Ginn's going to help me out with that. Trish, it seems like when I talk to some of the other content entrepreneurs, there's a point where they're creating all this content on a weekly, monthly, whatever basis, and they feel like, not want to say failure, but they don't know if it's working, and then all of a sudden they feel it starts working. There's generally like an aha moment. Did you have a moment, and what point was that where you said, oh, maybe I'm not wasting my time with this, maybe this is actually going to work? And when did that happen?
Boy, I don't know if I had really a specific aha moment. What I will say is, I definitely, being on as long as I have, it's very easy to kind of get lost in space. You kind of get on autopilot, like, let's do the show, it's time. I started to kind of refocus on, the value of curating the content, packaging it the right way, in the ways that people can actually use it, connecting the dots. Like, that was kind of the thing for me, is when I realized that people were really starting to view the videos and the work, and to find ways to directly apply it. But the other thing that I would also say is really what changed things for me is I'm definitely more of an introvert, which is great for content creation, but not always good for outreach and community building. And my instinct is not wanting to bother people, laying low, looking at my numbers rather than having conversations and asking the important questions. And it's easy, and there's a difference between inspiration and like inspiration doesn't always lead to sales or to to monetizing things. So excitement doesn't always translate into sales. So the kind of aspiration versus reality side of things. So there are times when I've looked at the stats and said, wow, 40,000 people have pinned this image of a twist fold. You don't need to know what it is, but it's a fancy fold that's really, really cool. And so I might have said, wow, that means everybody wants a twist fold line with samples and all this other stuff. Like, it's very easy to kind of say, wow, everybody's loving sharing and going nuts over this. But the truth is that that the inspiration doesn't necessarily translate into sales, and that you still have to talk to people and realize, oh, by the way, they love this, but they're actually buying this over here, which is simpler, that maybe these low budget ideas are better for sales, but these other things are inspiring. So it's kind of, I just learned that you really have to talk to your community. And when I started talking to people, I guess that was really my aha moment, is I started to really reach out to my community more than I did before. Yeah, that's actually my aha, because that is the truth. I started getting a lot more engaged with reaching out and asking real questions to my community and finding out what they want and need, versus using my instinct as the expert and, oh, everybody loves this, so they want this. You know what I mean?
What did you do to reach out to them? Did you just email them? Is this on social media? Is this on a community?
Yeah, so a lot of it was email, and then I've also had phone calls. So sometimes I've said, hey, I heard from you before. I know you're, a member of the community, whatever. I'd love to, if you had a half hour for me, I'd love to pick your brain on a couple of things. So it tends to be more of a personal outreach like that. I've also done surveys and gotten some great feedback from that, but I try not to do a whole lot of that. I try to do more selective reaching out, but I've certainly done that and gotten really good feedback too. So
I'm still stuck on the point you said you're an introvert. I never would have guessed that. I'm looking. There's 555 fold videos of you,
right.
And you don't look like an introvert in any one of those. And, yeah. So, anyways, well, that's not beyond the point. You mentioned sales. I'm sure everyone listening says, "Okay, great. This is crazy. She's creating all this content. She's got blogs and emails
Yep.
and Pinterest and everything going on. It's like a full-time job." How is Trish driving revenue? Everyone wants to know. So let's hear it. What do you got?
So definitely I certainly have a sponsorship model. So I don't rely on any particular line of revenue exclusively. And actually having over this past, 12, 14 months has been proof of why you really can't rely on any one revenue stream. I certainly do a lot of event work. A lot of that switched over to virtual, but I used to do a lot more in-person events, but last year changed everything. But that's not the only thing I rely on. I have a sponsorship model. I also get, royalties from, courses and other types of things. So it's funny. It's kind of a balance of several different things. I license content. Gosh, there's so many things.
Well, let's break it down a little bit, because this is really important. So, talk about your sponsorship model. How does that work? Go through that a little bit, and then I'd love to hear about your content syndication model and how that works as well.
Okay, so my sponsor model, I'm really I would say to everyone that choose your sponsors really carefully. Technically, I could have more sponsors than I have. I choose who I have very specifically because I choose sponsors who understand that I really need a lot of freedom in what I do. And the biggest challenge when you're starting out, for anybody who's starting out, the hardest thing is to resist monetizing. And I had a job. It was a side gig until it wasn't, and I've always been basically able to decide if I want to work with someone or do a project or whatever or not. And you need that control, because it's really, if you have to immediately monetize to survive, you're going to compromise your content and get distracted with paying projects and sponsorships that might be off brand, or get bogged down into deliverables, because sponsors a lot of times will also ask for, understandably, will ask for things, right? Whether it's analytics or deliverables or other things. And so I just have to be very careful about who I choose. So yeah, my sponsors, I think I have 5 key sponsors. And, I work with them. And some of them I do projects for, and some of them it's, fold of the week visibility and brand association. So I have, and they are wonderful.
So basically, some of it's you do some sponsored content for them, and some is straight up advertising. Sounds like.
Absolutely.
Okay, very good.
Yep.
And then talk about you said you syndicate some of your content. How does that work? Or you license some of that content out? How does that work?
Yeah, so I've done a lot of research on direct mail. I'll do like special research projects, or research on direct mail, engagement strategy for marketing. And so some of my publications will get licensed for branding. So what I'll do is I'll say, like I wrote a series called Direct Mail Simplified, and it was three publications. It's a series. And so printers, for example, would license it so that they could put their logo on the front. It would still have my name on it, but they would put their logo on the front, courtesy of such and such printer, and they would give it out to all. They would print them. I wouldn't print them. They would print them, because printers want to print their own stuff, understandably. And they would hand them out to their customers as valuable content to give to their customers. So that's just an example of the type of thing that I would license. And so I would create resources like that and then offer them as a way to provide valuable content to customers and brand it as a really nice giveaway.
All right, I'm going to bring Ann up here for a second for just to do some Q&A. But I guess my last question on revenue, Trish, is: are you looking at anything new? Are you going to sell something new, something you're testing out and saying, "Look, I built this audience. I can," and I love your take on diversification, because I totally agree with that, especially in certain times. Is there something else you're looking at that can take the business to another level?
I am. So what I'm really working on right now is, Full the Week has 555 episodes. My collection is thousands of materials. And there's so many great things in there. People always want to see it. There's no way to access it. So I'm working on a series of Magic Hands videos that would be, a subscription type of a service where people could search them and find the right things based on what their projects are, download templates to create the art. So then you have the idea plus the tool to, produce it. So that's what I'm working on based on a lot of the research. That's what people really need. They want the ideas, but then they also want the tools to create them. So it's a big project, but it's something that kind of, how like all signs lead to one place, like all signs keep pointing to that type of a resource, and the ability to limit the selection for everyone. Because one of the things when you have a large body of content is, it's hard for people to wade through it. Nobody's going to sit and binge watch 555 episodes to see if they find something that they want. And so you have to make your content searchable, usable, and that becomes the challenge when you have, a lot of content that you're either curating, whether it's supplied photos like Wally, or whether it's physical, print samples like I have.
That's fascinating. And again, I'm going to bring you in, and I know you're going to lead off Q&A. I don't know if you have a question first for Trish, but it's yours.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I have lots of questions for Trish, but I'm going to ask one now, and then I think we have some questions from the audience, so I will bring everyone to the stage. If you do have a question, just tap the right hand, or in the bottom right of your corner, there's a hand. Just tap that, and we'll bring it to the stage. So, Trish, I also was chuckling at the introvert statement, because in just listening to you talk about the Fold Factory, you're so passionate. And I'm curious, you've been doing this a while, right? Over a dozen years, and seem so enthusiastic, and obviously it's results in your output too. It's just so creative in that. How do you keep that going? I think that's a lot of content entrepreneurs, of you get excited at the beginning, and then it's 5 years later, and maybe not even ever get to 10 years later. So I'm curious of how you do that.
Yes. Oh my gosh. And it's true. You have to kind of prepare for that plateau or slump. And sometimes, it's hard not to feel like you're jogging in place. And for me, connecting with my audience is the easiest way to stay engaged. It's their enthusiasm and interest that really powers you through the tough weeks. And for me, the other thing I will say about video work is I used to get so nervous before speaking event. Oh my gosh, I'd be dreading it for weeks. Oh my gosh, I got a speaking event. What am I going to do? It's so scary, And I turn on a camera and I talk to my friends every week, and it helps you articulate. It helps you get comfortable talking to people, and also, Joe, I'm sure you understand this very well, but it also makes for a warm room when you get somewhere. It's like everybody knows you because they know you. They've seen you on video. They know your show or your whatever it is, your podcast. There's a warmth in the room because you're already familiar. And for me, it just took so much of my anxiety away, and it also helped me to learn how to articulate and share the content that I had. And if you go back to like the first episode of Fold of the Week, I'm kind of deer in the headlights, and over time you just get your confidence. And so even if nobody's watching your videos, oh my gosh, it just builds your confidence. Like just keep talking in front of it, keep working on it, keep working on your formula, and on your show, and it will help you in lots of different ways.
That's a great answer. And, I never thought of, as you were talking, of being an introvert, but already having the room know you when you go in person. That's helpful from that. You don't have to stick along the wall. People already know who you are. So that's an interesting way to help introverts from that. So we have a question from Fernando.
Yes, actually, it's not even that much of a question so much as a comment. I think we were in the same stage in the Chicago Super Niche or Niche Media Conference, and was it 2017 or 2018? Trish, Joe, and me all together. Was that?
I remember.
I'm sorry. Who's this? I'm sorry. Yes. How could we forget?
Oh yeah, that was fantastic. Okay, God, I just wanted to comment on this serendipitous moment, and I'll cede the stage. Thank you very much.
That's so cool.
Yeah, very fascinating talk, by the way. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That's funny. You never know. See, you'll never know who you find, whether it's a virtual room or an in-person room, then when we're able to get back to that from it. So my other question relates about your team building. You have chosen to take stuff in-house, and it seems to very much keep the business yourself from that. And I'm imagining there are some deliberate decisions in doing that, of keeping it. And maybe you have some other people helping in different ways, and you can talk about that. But I'm curious of how you've made those decisions as far as from a business, employment, outsourcing, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, definitely. I run a really lean team. I have hired people in the past, absolutely not full time. I've done mostly freelance. And in my situation, outsourcing feels great, but it kills my profitability, which then kills my spirit. I mean, regardless, it's so hard to kind of send every dollar. I can do it for short sprints, but it's hard when you're months in. And it's like, I had a wonderful, wonderful photographer who just does beautiful work. I love him. And I just was spending thousands and thousands of dollars a month on photography. And it was great to get kind of a foundation, but I couldn't do, a full-time photographer. And, I certainly admire a lot of the other content creators, that have been in this tour who have teams. I've certainly had to be, if you're going to bootstrap it, it's definitely something that you can do, but you have to write, you have to, photograph, whatever it is, you have to learn how to do a lot of these things yourself. There are things that I know I can't do, and those are the things I definitely outsource, but and admittedly, I'm trying to get my teenagers to learn how to video edit so that I can have in-house video editors. I'm not having luck with that, but there's definitely a sense sometimes of having to wear a lot of hats. And as I said, my husband manages the website as well. So in time, I'd love to have a bigger team. But I've also found too, because of the nature of what I do, kind of the niche, so to speak, it's hard sometimes for me to delegate the work because I know it so well, and I can look at something and say, this was this. And so it's hard for me to say, take this pile of samples and put them into the database, because that other person might not know all of the answers that they need to know. And so sometimes it's harder for me, to delegate certain things. So that's a bit of the challenge in the team building of it. But what I do feel, though, is I don't feel like I've pulled every lever of monetization. And my advice to everyone is, create something of value. And if you create something of value, you get to decide how to monetize it. And, there are things that I just choose not to do. I could get in the way of the money more often than I do, but I just choose not to. And it's that ability to choose how you want to monetize when you create something of value that, for me, is what, can be really important. So
That's a great point. So do you have, or could you share, and if you can't, that's okay, I totally understand, of something that you said, this is not a way I want to monetize it. I could, but I don't, because it doesn't fit with what I'm looking for.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I've got a couple for you. So I've had, so many times, I get a lot of, advice from people, oh my gosh, you could totally, you could sell Fold of the Week, printers could place their, you could sell your episodes, you could, I know for certain that there are a lot of, printers who have been featured on the show that have gotten really big print jobs and things like that from being featured. I could certainly have a contract like, hey, if you get a referral from this, I get X% of the, of the, as a royalty, or whatever, a commission on the job, I just, same thing with, I know that I'm my show is directly responsible for, selling machine, like print production equipment, finishing equipment that's in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. So could I have agreements with, different companies to get a commission on when, my show or my influence leads to a sale? Absolutely. But I just choose not to. I choose to do things differently, and make my money in other ways. Now, whether that makes me a good or bad business person, I don't know. But that's just my approach, and it's the ability to say I don't want to do it this way. That there's some freedom in that. So.
Trish, I love some of these answers. I guess as you were talking, I was looking through your YouTube channel, and do you ever have a concern that you have so much of your content on other properties, and as they change the rules, that could affect your business?
Oh, definitely. And so I'm actually like I've built, most of my content on YouTube, but I'm pulling a lot, not pulling it, that's the wrong word, but I'm bringing a lot of it onto the Fold Factory website, and I'm now making it searchable, and more useful in different ways so that people would come and find it on the site. I have own all of my videos, so I can always, if I had to, I could pull them and, put them on, I don't know, Bright Cove or Vimeo or something else if I had to. But, there's some options there. I do believe in kind of not relying exclusively, on any one platform. And also I, believe in building the email list and keeping up your connections that way. So, I send a weekly Fold of the Week email blast, and then I do occasionally send. I'm planning for maybe a second email, maybe twice a month, a different email besides Fold of the Week, twice a month. But I just believe in being really, really cautious about how you use that, privilege of being able to send out to people. So I just put an awful lot of thought into the value of what it is I'm sending out and when I send out. And I only send out when I have, a couple of really powerful things to say. And then I put them into one concise message for everybody, and I try to provide a lot of value that way.
Is that tell me a little bit about Fold Club. Is that part of your email distribution strategy? Is that part of getting people to move from YouTube to something that you can control a little bit more?
Yeah, absolutely. So Fold Club, we have, so my original Fold Club is my email list, and you get Fold of the Week. And then also you have unlimited access to my, whenever I do Dieline, like I have a whole page of Dieline downloads that are free. I used to charge for Dieline. Now they're free for downloads for people who subscribe. It's free and easy. And then I also have our original, I was telling you that we were a software company out of the gate. That software actually began as a plugin for InDesign. And then it went from plugin to software as a service. And then we always charged for it. It was a subscription model after it was a plugin. And then we decided to just give it away. And now people use it. I mean, that you can do unlimited template downloads. For anybody who doesn't know what I mean by template downloads, it's just the digital file for folded materials can be very complex to set up. So my software calculates all of the fold placements for you. You don't have to do any math, and you can just start designing. It eliminates all human error. And so that software is kind of as a cult following. It's a classic, industry classic. And so I give that away. And so when they subscribe, they get free access to that. They get, the email list, and also any of my downloads. And sometimes I surprise them with other fun stuff. So.
All right. So I got a couple more, about 10 more minutes, but I've got a couple more questions I want to make sure I get out there, and specifically around exit strategies. And a couple of people that you and I know in the industry, they've had their podcast purchased. They've considered selling the company. I guess I want you to explain. Do you have an exit strategy? Have you written that down? Is that part, like, what if somebody approached you to buy Fold Factory? Do you think about those things?
I do think about them. I will say that, and that's really part of why I'm kind of working on getting a more searchable, manageable version of the content that I have. Think of it, what I'm building is kind of like, think of it in terms of like a stock photo site where you can search for photos and all the photos show up, and you can, pick based on your parameters. Think of that, but for folds and creative formats. And so I'm trying to build something more like that, that has value and recurring revenue. I think right now, I'm not sure as it stands that Fold Factory is that sellable because I'm so deeply involved in it. But I'm working to create, but I definitely see that need for something that is more tangible that could be sold in time. But with that said, it definitely is a part of my life. It's weird. I've been in this for a little over 20 years, and a part of me can't imagine another 500 episodes and 10 more years of shooting, but part of me doesn't know what else I would do. It's part of my life these days. And to me, as long as it's still building momentum and has value, and is really directly related to what I enjoy doing, and then it makes sense to me. But I definitely certainly have thought of that, of the exit strategy, and how to take what I have here and turn it into something that people can really use and benefit from.
Well, it's interesting because when we talked to Matthew Patrick, who runs a really popular YouTube channel called Game Theorist, and we talked to Brian Clark from Copyblogger, they both brought up the fact that they wanted to make sure that they had a process in place, that they weren't the brand, that Game Theorist was not Matthew Patrick, that Brian Clark was not Copyblogger. It sounds like, though, when I go to your site right now,
Yeah.
So you're all over this site. You can, I mean, Fold Factory is Trish.
Yep.
Trish, I can hire you to speak on that page. So it sounds like you're thinking. Are you thinking about breaking that up a little bit?
Yeah. And there's a very specific reason why I'm using Magic Hands videos in a lot of my new work. And that's because they could be my hands, they could be anybody's hands. I'm looking for ways to kind of, like they're talking about too. I can't be the face of everything. And so although I'm the face of the Fold Factory brand and the content, if you look at the blog posts, I'm not physically in it. My face isn't in it. The Magic Hands, you can see the samples, and it's all straight just education and inspiration. And so I'm definitely doing kind of a pivot into that as well, where even though my site has a lot of me, I'm looking for ways to also neutralize some of the content. And it's a challenge because you do become kind of your brand. And it's funny, I for a while did go in the other direction where I tried to not be, my previous, I just relaunched the site recently in February to the whole new site. And before that, Fold Factory, I didn't really have my face that much on the Fold Factory site. It was more about the samples and the folds. And it kind of lost character, that idea of, kind of having a bit of a soul in the business, I felt like was kind of missing. And so I feel more connected to the content I'm creating. And I feel better about the new version of the site because I'm getting more personally involved with it and not trying to be a step away from it. So it is a balance for sure.
Well, the new site looks great. So
Thank you.
you did a fantastic job with it. I've got 2 more questions. The first question should be, well, maybe not so simple, but do you have a number in mind? If a company came to you and said, Trish, we want to buy the whole thing, do you have it? Do you know?
Kind of. Yeah, I know. And I know I love your story of writing it down and kind of having that vision in your head. I think I know what would be compelling to me.
Fair enough. You don't have to say what the number is. But yeah, it's interesting because I talk about this in the book. There's so many content entrepreneurs that start that just they don't know what it's supposed to become. They don't know what numbers are, what subscriber numbers are, what revenue numbers are, and so they keep churning out the content. And if you don't have an ultimate goal of some kind, it really gets tough after years to continue to produce the content because you don't know what you're striving for.
It does, absolutely. So you do have to have that idea in mind and what success looks like to you. And my success could look very different than somebody else's, but it's kind of, what is success to you? And you have to go toward that goal,
When you go to conferences, and well, obviously we both went to conferences before this whole thing happened, but now as you go back to, what's the biggest question that you get from people about how to do what you do? Is there one that people always come up to you and say, how do you do this? How do you do that? Is there a consistent one?
Yeah, I do get a fair amount of just, people who have kind of a general green field, I want to get started. What do I do? How do I do kind of what you did? And that's kind of a tough open-ended question, but I really believe you just have to start, but you can't just kind of wander. You have to come up with what's unique about what you're doing, and you have to have, I have a formula. Every show has a formula, and you have to decide that formula can evolve because you may not hit on it out of the gate. But so I get questions about that, and then I get questions about, how do you do it? What do you use? There's kind of those technical questions. And then with regard to what I do, I get a lot of questions about how do I know which format to choose for what I'm doing. And so that's what's led to a lot of my research. That's what's really nice about going out for events. Joe, I'm sure you deal with this too, where just getting out, getting in front of people and interacting afterward and before, you get a lot of great feedback on what you're doing, what people's problems are. People will tell you all sorts of things about the challenges they're having. And, oh my gosh, I wish I this, and I wish we had more of that. And you can just really pick up on an awful lot about what's going on in the world and what your audience needs. And so I really also believe that, not only is, being at events, virtual or in person, a great way to just get out there and to talk and learn and share your ideas, but it's also just a great way to just get intel on what people need and want and how to better serve your audience. It's just so important.
It's so funny because when we go to these events, and one of the reasons why we started the Tilt was because I used to talk to content creators, they would always struggle with the audience was okay, right? They could build an audience, but they couldn't drive revenue and they couldn't diversify the revenue once they did start it. It was like a big issue. Like you've really accomplished something that most content entrepreneurs can't get to because generally they're one or two trick ponies. They don't have a diversified set of monetization strategies, and second of all, some can't really get to significant revenue anyways. So it's interesting to hear that you've gotten to that point. I want to finish off with this. I ask everyone this question at the end. Give it some thought here. What is one thing that if somebody wants to become a successful content entrepreneur or is struggling right now, what should they do this week that will sort of change their stars and get them out of their rut? Is there something that you use in your life?
So if it's somebody who's creating content and they're in a rut,
Somebody who's creating content wants to
yep.
do what you do. What's some piece of advice that you would give them that will get them to the next level?
So I can tell you, I watch for small movements. I don't watch for big ones because you don't always get these big signs from everybody. And here's what has helped me. I'll do a little something different. So one of the things I did in the show over the past 2 episodes, I did it 2 episodes ago, was I added a special inset, like overhead view, a second camera angle, which I've never done before. And I added a new twist on my intro because I just was like, you know what? I've been doing this. Everybody likes the formula. I'm not going to mess with the formula, but I'm going to add some energy and shake up the format a bit. And I did that. And I wrote in the comments, I said, hey, everybody trying something new this week. Let me know what you think. And I got just great people like, oh, love the new overhead view, da-da-da-da. And there's something about like just asking for a bit of interaction and trying something a little bit different. And what I look for, what I mean by small cues is I look for like early likes on a video, like I watch it kind of after I post it and send the email. And, I watch for if I have my kind of view to like ratio is higher than average. I look for new people commenting. So I have a kind of a group of people that I just love out of my audience that always comment. I can hear from them almost every week. And we have this little conversation going. They're wonderful. Like, I just can't live without them. But when you get a few new people, when you've motivated a couple of new people to comment, you just go, okay, I'm onto something. And so, I look for those little things when I'm really in a slump. I look for littler things, and sometimes I'll try something a little bit new, without reinventing the wheel. Because for me, it's working. My formula works. It's kind of how can I make the show a little better and interact with my audience. And if you interact with your audience, and if all else fails, read some of your really nice emails you've gotten from people who love your work. Everybody probably has a little folder. I sure do, of those like pick me up emails. I have one that's so funny. I have a guy who sent me a picture of his dogs, like jump up on his lap when they hear the Fold of the Week music and they're watching the show. And, different things like that just make your day when people say they love your show and they just want to reach out. Or whatever it is that you work on, have a little pick me up folder too, and kind of remind yourself why you do what you do, and that always helps me too.
I love that, Trish. I just added recently to my personal newsletter, the random newsletter, just a question. So when people sign up, it says, "Hey, what's one thing that you really need more information on? Can you please reply back to this?" And I was amazed people actually do. They say, "Oh, thanks I'm so happy to subscribe. Can you tell me about this?" And it really is the best form of feedback I've received. So anything like that where you can reach out, I totally agree. That's the best way.
No,
Trish,
it is. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Trish, it's been such a wonderful time speaking with you here today. Before we close this out, where's the best place that people can get more information about you?
2 places, foldfactory.com. And also, you can check out my YouTube channel, youtube.com/foldfactory. I also, of course, invite you to link up with me on LinkedIn. I'm just Trish Witkowski.
Okay, back to Joe now. We find in the Content Inc. book, as well as in our content entrepreneur research from The Tilt, that the base is critically important. Instead of spreading yourself around everywhere on the web, we focus on being great in one channel. Trish did this with Fold Factory, and that's why she's so successful. Focus wins every time. I hope you enjoyed this interview with Trish Witkowski. Join us next Thursday on the Content Inc. podcast for our last very special interview and case study from the Content Inc. book. Good luck and go out and change the world for the better.